The air is thick with tension. The silence is deafening. The whole community is shaken, but they don't know what's coming. They thought they could silence your voice, ridicule your warnings, and bury the truth beneath their lies. But the truth doesn't stay hidden for long. Right now, everything they dismissed, mocked, and rejected is coming to light, and they're scrambling to put the pieces back together. What they failed to realize is that the storm wasn't coming, it's here. And it came exactly the way you described. They thought you were crazy, paranoid, dramatic, but now, the very things you pointed out are erupting right in front of them. Every lie they told, every accusation they made against you is now coming back to haunt them. This isn't a coincidence. This is divine justice. The universe is pulling back the veil and exposing everything they tried to bury. You were the spark. The ones who laughed at you, mocked your warnings, and labeled you as crazy are now feeling the consequences of their own ignorance. If you've been feeling the shift, the rising tension, comment 777 below your declaration of truth. Hit that like button, subscribe, and join us in this journey of divine revelation. Together, we will rise, because what's happening right now isn't just a shake-up. It's a vindication of everything you knew to be true. Thank you for standing strong. You are not alone. This is bigger than you and me. This is about justice, truth, and the unveiling of what has been hidden. Now, let's dive deeper into what's really happening. The community is shaken, but it's your truth that's shaking them. So, I ask you, how will you stand as the truth unfolds, and what will you do when the light exposes all the darkness they've hidden? God's chosen ones, what's really happening as the whole community is shaken? As the dust settles and the truth emerges, it's clear. The chosen one's perception was never a flaw. It was a gift, a guiding light in a world full of shadows. You, the chosen one, were not just reacting to the noise around you, you were listening to the stillness. While others were too caught up in their own delusions, you were reading the energy, sensing the movements before they even materialized. And when they mocked you for it, when they dismissed your wisdom as paranoia, they were only rejecting the truth that they couldn't bear to face. Proverbs 3:5 source. Isn't it a fascinating paradox? The very trait they used to dismiss you, your sensitivity, your awareness, is now the thing that stands as your greatest strength. It's a trait that sets you apart, one that allows you to see what others are blind to. While they fought to keep the world in their constructed version of reality, you had the courage to stay in alignment with the truth, no matter how inconvenient it was for them. In the end, that truth has become your ally, and it has exposed the cracks in their fabricated world. The truth shall set you free. John 8:32. Now, you stand tall in your awareness, knowing that the very thing they mocked is the thing that has empowered you. You've learned that perception is not about seeing things as they are, but about seeing them as they will be. Your ability to sense what others cannot has proven to be more than just useful. It has been your salvation. The storm that has shaken the whole community is nothing more than a ripple effect of the truth you saw long before it broke. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. James 1:25. Let me ask you, have you ever wondered if those same people who once dismissed your warnings are now secretly admiring your strength? How does it feel to know that, despite their doubts, you were right? Perhaps even more powerful is the realization that you didn't need to shout or prove yourself. Your silence, your patience, and your strength have been your loudest voice all along. The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth. Psalm 145:18. The truth doesn't need validation, it stands on its own. In the midst of all this chaos, remember that your journey has never been about vengeance. It has always been about living in alignment with your purpose, remaining true to your vision, even when others couldn't see what you saw. What you've witnessed is the power of standing in your own truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may have felt. This is your time to shine, chosen one. You've not only survived the storm, but you've also emerged as a beacon of wisdom and strength, a living testament to the power of perception over denial. And here's the beautiful truth. As the truth continues to unfold, so will your growth. You've been prepared for this moment. Your journey has been one of becoming stronger, clearer, and more attuned to the divine guidance that has always been with you. I can do all things through him who strengthens me, Philippians 4:13. This isn't just about being right. It's about the peace that comes from knowing you stood firm. Your faith and awareness have carried you through, and now the world has no choice but to recognize it. You're not just surviving in the rubble of their doubts, you're flourishing. You've stepped into your power, chosen one, and now the universe is aligning to support you. And as their truth is exposed, your growth becomes undeniable. It's not just about the pain they caused, but about the strength you gained. That is your true victory. Now, look at what remains. The lies they once used to keep you down are disintegrating. The walls they tried to build around your truth are crumbling. You've proven to yourself and the world that nothing, no mockery, no dismissal, no disbelief can silence the wisdom you carry. And that wisdom, chosen one, is what will continue to guide you. It's time for you to step into the next phase of your journey, knowing you have the strength and the clarity to move forward. Let them sit with their regret, chosen one, for it is not your burden to carry. You have freed yourself from their projections, and now you are standing tall in your truth. As their illusions crumble, your path becomes clearer than ever before. This is your moment to shine, to move forward with the wisdom you've earned and the peace you've cultivated. Embrace it. And as the pieces fall into place, continue to walk your path with grace, knowing that the power of perception and patience will guide you every step of the way. You are not paranoid, you are awake. And the world is finally catching up. Stay grounded, stay present, and keep walking the path you were always meant to walk. The truth is yours now, chosen one, and that truth, like you, is unstoppable. The truth has a way of growing, and once it is planted, it cannot be buried again. For you, the chosen one, what seemed like a whisper in the beginning is now the undeniable roar. Every word you spoke, every truth you pointed out, no matter how loudly they laughed or mocked, has now begun to echo across their lives. They never expected that your quiet confidence, your calm resolve, and your silent endurance would be what would bring about their awakening. But now, the silence you've embraced has turned into an unstoppable force, causing ripples far beyond what you could have imagined. You see, truth is never truly silenced. It may be ignored for a time, it may be called paranoia, drama, or negativity, but in the end, it comes out of the shadows to shake everything it touches. And for you, chosen one, this is the moment you've been waiting for. The world around you may seem chaotic, but in this chaos, the truth is revealing itself. What was once hidden is coming to the surface, and those who mocked you, dismissed you, and called you dramatic are now facing the consequences of their own denial. This is the crux of the situation. While others continue to cling to falsehoods, pretending everything is fine, you have stood firm in your truth. Your silence is not weakness, your stillness is not defeat. On the contrary, your silence is the sound of the universe aligning with your wisdom, your foresight, and your strength. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. You are not crushed, you are being refined. Now, the very ones who once dismissed your warnings are standing in the wreckage of the lies they clung to. Their world is falling apart, and they can't figure out why. But you, the chosen one, have always known that the truth, once exposed, would be their undoing. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. You were never paranoid. You were simply awake. You saw the truth long before they were ready to face it. And now, in their confusion, they are beginning to realize that you were right. This is not your victory through their suffering, though. It's not about rubbing it in their faces. Instead, it's about your own growth, your own strength, and the power that comes from standing in your truth, no matter how painful or inconvenient it was for others. For the word of the Lord is right and true. He is faithful in all he does. Psalm 33:4. And the word that you spoke, the truth you stood by, is now being honored by the very forces that govern the universe. What you spoke in silence has now become the loudest voice in the room. You have been vindicated, and this is the moment where you claim your strength, not because of what they lost, but because of what you gained. Have you ever wondered why the silence cuts so deep? Why, when you chose not to fight back, when you stopped defending yourself, they were the ones left with their wounds? Why, when you stopped fighting for validation, they started fighting with their own conscience? It's because silence has a power that words can never have. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. In the stillness, you let God work. In your silence, the universe has found its way to speak louder than you ever could. Now, as you stand with this newfound strength, it is essential to understand that you are not just surviving this storm, you are thriving through it. You are not simply enduring the shaking of your community. You are the reason it is shaking. You were the one who had the courage to stand, the wisdom to wait, and the foresight to see. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. The plans that God has for you are unfolding in ways that will surpass even your own understanding. Let the silence be your megaphone, chosen one. Let it speak for you in ways words never could. The truth doesn't need to scream, it just needs to be. And it will do its work, no matter how long it takes. As the truth begins to spread, and those who once ignored it now begin to face it, remember that this is your moment of ascension, your time to rise above the noise and claim the power that is rightfully yours. As you move forward, keep your peace. Stay grounded in your truth. Keep walking in the quiet confidence that only you know the true power of silence. The world may have doubted you, but they will never be able to deny what you have seen, and that, chosen one, is your victory. The silence that once seemed like defeat has become your crown. Let the world continue to talk. Let the crowds continue to cheer for the lies, because you are the truth, and that is louder than any voice or opinion. Keep standing firm. Keep walking with your head held high, knowing that the truth is yours, and it will never be silenced again. The truth is your power, and that power will never fade. For the battle is not yours, but God's. 2 Chronicles 20:15. And with God on your side, you can never be defeated. The truth about exile is that it's rarely accidental. It's a weapon of choice for those who cannot tolerate the disruption of their carefully curated world. Chosen one, you didn't just stumble into isolation. No, you were deliberately cast out. It wasn't because you didn't belong, it was because your presence, your clarity, your voice threatened the very fabric of their illusions. Your exile was not random. It was engineered. When you spoke up, when you stood firm in your truth, it rattled the walls of a comfortable, well-maintained lie. It exposed what others didn't want to see, the cracks in their facades. And the reaction you received, that collective push to silence you, wasn't about you as a person. It was about what you represented. You were the glitch, the disruption, the one who refused to play along with the masquerade. They didn't cast you out because you were weak or irrelevant. They cast you out because you were too strong, too clear, too true. Ask yourself this: if you were insignificant, why would they go to such lengths to exclude you? Why would they whisper about you behind your back, plot to silence you, or smear your name? People don't waste that much energy on someone who doesn't matter. They only silence what threatens them. And chosen one, you were a direct threat to the comfort they found in their illusion of peace. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. Your refusal to pretend, your courage to speak what no one else wanted to, made you dangerous in their eyes. Like Galileo, who was exiled for suggesting that the earth wasn't the center of the universe. You were cast out for daring to challenge the prevailing narrative. Like whistleblowers who risk everything to expose corruption, you became a target because you had the courage to speak truth into the lies they built their world on. You were the one sober voice in a room full of denial, the one who refused to clap for dysfunction dressed as unity. And when you spoke out, you were isolated, branded as too deep, too emotional, or simply too much. But in truth, you were never too much. They were too little to handle your clarity. You were too big for their small world. And those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the heavens. Daniel 12:3. Your exile wasn't a mark of failure. It was a testament to your strength. You weren't cast out because you didn't belong. You were cast out because your clarity was too much for them to handle. It was the mirror they didn't want to look into. Your refusal to ignore the cracks in their perfect world was their undoing. It exposed their lack of authenticity, their avoidance of truth, and their willingness to stay comfortable in lies. Now, as the world you were exiled from begins to unravel, they are forced to confront the truth you saw long before they were ready. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. The betrayals you named, the people you warned about, are now coming to light. And those who tried to erase your voice, who tried to push you to the margins, are now watching in shock as the truth plays out exactly as you foretold. This is where the irony hits. They thought they could erase your impact by pushing you aside, but all they did was give your words more space to grow. Your exile wasn't a punishment, it was a confession. Every action they took to silence you is now a clear admission of your power. The very thing they tried to bury is now rising to the surface. And it's impossible for them to deny anymore. You didn't need to shout to make your truth known. Your silence, your absence, your unwavering stance was louder than any words you could have spoken. The truth will always find its way. Proverbs 12:19. And now the universe is revealing what they tried to hide. They thought that by casting you out, they could keep their lies intact. But now, they are the ones choking on the truth. As their illusions collapse, as the walls they built with lies begin to crumble, they will be forced to confront the reality they never wanted to face. And in that moment, you will stand tall, not because you were right all along, but because you were strong enough to bear the weight of the truth when they couldn't. You were never the problem, chosen one. The problem was their refusal to see, to accept, to acknowledge. You were never an outcast. They were the ones living in exile, hidden behind layers of denial. Your exile wasn't the end. It was the beginning. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. And now, as everything they built begins to crumble, you stand as a living testament to the power of truth, to the strength of those who are brave enough to speak it, and to the unshakable foundation of those who choose clarity over comfort. So, chosen one, stand proud. Let the world see what happens when truth is allowed to rise. Let them witness the collapse of the lies they built, and know that you, the one they tried to silence, are the one who will remain standing long after the dust settles. Your exile was never your downfall. It was your awakening. And now, the truth is your crown. Chosen one, let's take a moment to reflect on something deep and profound. How many times have we prayed, asked for change, for a breakthrough, for clarity in the midst of chaos? We have all experienced those moments of silent desperation when the heart calls out, pleading for an answer, for a sign. But what happens when that answer shows up, not in the form we imagined, but in a way that makes us uncomfortable, even resistant? You were the answer they prayed for, yet they rejected you because you didn't come dressed in the way they had imagined, and that, chosen one, is the tragic irony. You weren't sent to them in some grandiose, perfect form. No, you arrived raw, real, and unpolished, just as the truth often does. Before they even had the words for their struggles, You were already walking into their lives, carrying the insight, the wisdom, and the clarity they needed. But they didn't recognize it. They didn't see you as the blessing they had called for, because you didn't fit into the neat little box of their expectations. You weren't wrapped in the package they imagined for their salvation. You came in sharp, unfiltered, and unafraid to confront the deep hidden truths that needed to be addressed. Truth, as you now know, is often uncomfortable. It doesn't gently ask you to change, it demands it. It doesn't whisper softly in your ear, it shakes your foundation, it exposes the lies, and it drags you out of the comfort zones you've spent years constructing. You didn't come to sing lullabies to soothe their egos. You came to bang on the door of their delusions and force them to face the reality they were avoiding. You can think of it like this. Imagine someone drowning in the ocean, calling for help. They're envisioning a gentle lifeguard, smiling, pulling them to safety with care and tenderness. But instead, someone dives in with urgency, grabs them by the collar, and yanks them from the water in a way that feels harsh, even violent. At that moment, it didn't feel like a rescue. It feels like a jarring shock to the system. And that was you, chosen one. You were the force that showed up when they needed it most, but you didn't look the way they thought you would. They thought healing would feel gentle, smooth, and soothing, but it didn't. It felt like exposure. It wasn't a warm embrace. They felt like they were being pried open, forced to face the wounds they didn't want to acknowledge. They expected comfort, but what you brought was the necessary confrontation that would break them free from the chains of their own self-deception. And because you didn't fit their fantasy of a perfect savior, they rejected you. They shut the door, not knowing that you were their escape. But look at what's happening now, chosen one. The very people you warned them about, the ones you tried to open their eyes to, are now revealing their true colors. The cycles you attempted to interrupt are now breaking apart right before their eyes. The betrayals you pointed out, the signs you noticed and warned them about, are now undeniable. It's all coming to light in real time, and they can no longer hide from it. What you tried to prevent has now become an inevitable reality, and the very people who rejected you, who mocked your warnings, are now left in a wake of regret. They are realizing, one painful step at a time, that the very help they begged for arrived in the form of you, and yet they dismissed it, not because you weren't enough, but because you were too real. You were too raw. You didn't fit their idea of how help should look, and because of that, they turned away from the very blessing they prayed for. Why is this so powerful? It's because truth has a way of unveiling itself, regardless of how much we resist it. The truth cannot be silenced, not forever. It has its way of coming to light, no matter how deeply it is buried, no matter how many layers of deception are piled on top of it. You weren't the one who failed. They were. They failed to see you for what you truly were, a gift, a beacon of clarity, a force for their transformation. They turned you away, believing they were protecting themselves, when in fact they were only shielding themselves from their own healing. Lies can build illusions, but truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose, and it will defend itself. Augustine of Hippo. Your silence, your calmness in the face of their rejection, became louder than any words. And now, as they sit in the wreckage of their own poor decisions, they will come to understand the profound weight of their choices. The healing they wanted came not in the soft package they expected, but in the form of the truth that shook them awake. Their comfort, their denial, their refusal to see what was right in front of them, these were the things that kept them from the breakthrough they so desperately needed. You were never the problem. Their refusal to face the truth was the problem. And now, as they choke on the reality you foresaw, you stand as living proof of what it means to live in alignment with truth. Truth isn't afraid of being uncomfortable. It doesn't seek approval or applause. It only seeks recognition. And chosen one, your recognition is coming. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. And though they rejected you, though they tried to silence you, What you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and what you have whispered in the ear in the inner rooms will be proclaimed from the roofs. Luke 12:3. In the end, your silence is your victory. Your ability to stand firm in your truth without the need for validation, without the need to justify yourself, is your power. Let them wonder. Let them ask themselves why they didn't listen when they had the chance. Because the truth is here, chosen one, and it's louder than any doubt or denial they could ever muster. Stay strong, stay steady, and know that the universe always has a way of bringing the truth to light, even when it takes a little longer than we expect. For everything that is hidden will eventually be brought into the open, and every secret will be brought to light. Luke 8:17. And when it does, you will be standing in the center of it all, the living embodiment of truth, unapologetically and undeniably victorious. Chosen one, let's dive deeper into this. Have you ever noticed how people often seem to hate the messenger, especially when the message is uncomfortable? It's like a fire alarm going off. People don't hate the alarm because it lies. They hate it because it interrupts their comfort and screams the truth they don't want to face. And that's exactly what you were. You weren't the chaos. You were the alarm. Long before the smoke started rising, long before the cracks in the walls began showing, your very presence carried the energy of a warning. The truth shall set you free. John 8:32. This verse rings so true when it comes to your role. You didn't need loud sirens or flashing lights. Your presence alone, your awareness, your questions, your refusal to play along with the status quo was enough to shake things up. But how did they respond? They dismissed you. Instead of seeing your resistance as revelation, they labeled it as rebellion. Why? Because comfort is addictive. They didn't want to face what you were revealing, because that would mean they would have to give up the lies they were holding on to. It's like this. Imagine sitting in a room full of people, eating dinner, and everything seems fine. Then you, the chosen one, smell gas. Something's wrong. The danger is imminent. So you call it out, alerting everyone. But instead of thanking you, instead of checking for the danger, they accuse you of ruining the moment. They say you're too negative, too dramatic. But you weren't inventing danger, you were seeing it before anyone else. And they missed it. They ignored your warnings. Why? Because confronting the truth would shatter the comfort they'd worked so hard to maintain. For the word of the Lord is right and true. He is faithful in all he does. Psalm 33:4. Your warnings were true. You were not wrong, but they couldn't see that. They tried to silence you because they couldn't handle the reality you were exposing. They'd rather stay asleep in their comfortable delusions than wake up to the truth. But now, look at what's happening. The smoke is rising, the cracks are spreading, and they're gasping for air. The very things you warned about are happening right before their eyes, and deep down, they know. They know you were right. They know you saw it before they did, and it haunts them. Now, here's where the irony kicks in. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. At first, they labeled you paranoid, negative, and difficult. But now, in their silence, your words are echoing louder than ever. Every moment you stayed quiet, every time you held your ground, they began to hear your truth louder, clearer, undeniable. The truth never needed to scream. It simply waited for the moment when it couldn't be ignored any longer. They thought chaos would come in a grand, dramatic way. They thought it would come with fireworks and loud bangs. But you knew better. For God is not a God of confusion, but of peace. 1 Corinthians 14:33. Real chaos often sneaks in quietly. It shows up in small cracks, in subtle betrayals, in whispered secrets that eventually turn into loud truths. You saw it when it was still a shadow, when it was still invisible. That's what unsettled them. The chaos wasn't the issue, it was your ability to see it that they couldn't handle. And now that the truth has come to light, the walls they built to protect themselves from it are crumbling. And now, the fallout is undeniable. Relationships are collapsing, reputations are being destroyed, and the lies they told are coming back to haunt them. The same people who tried to silence your warnings are now standing in the rubble of their own choices. The way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know over what they stumble. Proverbs 4:19. The lies they held onto have been exposed, and now they can't hide. They can't erase the truth. You were the one who spoke the hard truth, the uncomfortable truth. You were the one who saw what they didn't want to see. And now, as everything they believed in falls apart, they know exactly who to blame: themselves. And what's even more powerful is this: for the kingdom of God is not a matter of talk, but of power. 1 Corinthians 4:20. Your silence, your calm, your steady presence has become its own weapon. While they tried to drown you out with noise, your silence spoke louder than any argument you could have had. Your absence became a megaphone, and in the silence, the truth echoed throughout their lives, pushing them to face what they couldn't avoid. And now, they can't ignore it. The truth will be revealed, and the lies will fade away. Isaiah 25:7. You were never in chaos. You were the warning. You were the wake-up call that no one wanted to hear. But now, as everything they worked to protect crumbles, they have no one to blame but themselves. They tried to silence you, tried to label you, but the truth was always on your side. And now, the truth is all they have left to confront. Chosen one, let's unravel this truth. The community you once stood with, those people who watched from the sidelines, they weren't lost, they weren't clueless, and they definitely weren't innocent. The truth is, they knew exactly what was happening. They saw the same cracks you saw, felt the same tension in the air, and heard the same whispers that made your heart heavy. Yet, they chose to look away. Why? Because confronting the truth would cost them something more precious than their pride. It would cost them their comfort. To truly face the reality would require them to sacrifice the safety of the crowd, the approval of the collective, and perhaps their own position within the social structure they relied on. But he who does what is right comes into the light, so that it may be plainly seen that what he has done has been done in God. John 3:21. They knew exactly what was happening around them, but instead of standing with you, they cowered in silence, hoping it would all blow over. They weren't ignorant, they were just too afraid to stand for what was right. That's the painful truth. Their silence wasn't an innocent byproduct of confusion, it was complicity. And in choosing silence, they made an agreement with the lie. Picture this: a burning building. You're standing there, shouting, "Fire!" while the others sit calmly at the dinner table, aware of the smoke curling up around them, the heat creeping in. But they stay seated, they don't get up, they don't leave. Why? Because leaving would cost them their comfort. It would mean admitting they were wrong. It would mean facing the discomfort of truth, and most would rather clutch their plates and pretend nothing is happening, all while the flames get closer. That's the community you once trusted, chosen one. They watched you take the blows. They allowed you to be ridiculed, smeared, and cast aside, all because standing with you meant that they, too, would be marked as enemies. They didn't believe you were wrong, they simply didn't want to suffer with you. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. It wasn't that they believed your truth was false, it was that the price of standing for it was too high. They chose to protect their status, their comfort, and their peace over standing in the light of truth. They chose to stay silent because the truth demanded more from them than they were willing to give. And now, chosen one, where are they? The very leaders they defended are now being exposed. The fake peace they clung to has crumbled into chaos. The herd mentality they hid behind is stampeding them straight into disaster. And you, the one they cast out, are standing firm, while everything they protect comes crashing down around them. But the one who does wrong will receive the consequences of the wrong which he has done, and that without partiality. Colossians 3:25. This is the law of divine justice. They thought by remaining silent they could avoid facing the consequences of their actions, but in reality their silence was their complicity. Now, As the truth comes to light, their passivity has become the loudest voice of all. Their silence speaks volumes louder than any words you could have said. And while they tried to avoid the pain, they're now sinking deeper into it. And here's the twist. You, chosen one, were the one who spoke the truth. You were the one willing to take the heat. You were the one who was strong enough to stand alone when the entire crowd turned its back. And now, as everything they defended falls apart, you remain standing. You weren't the problem, they were. Your silence in the face of their betrayal is now your strength. Your strength is now your vindication. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Ephesians 6:13. You were never meant to shrink. You were never meant to fall into the trap of silence in order to please others. Your path, though lonely at times, is a testament to your strength, your resilience, and your unwavering commitment to truth. You are standing firm in the knowledge that the truth will not only be known, but it will also set you free, even if it means standing alone. Now, look at them scrambling, trying to pick up the pieces of a shattered illusion. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. The lies they clung to are now exposed for all to see. The masks have slipped, and the very things they tried to keep hidden are now being brought into the light. And you, chosen one, have already walked through the fire and emerged stronger. They were never confused, never blind. They were complicit. Their silence wasn't neutrality, it was an agreement with the lies. But now, as the lies crumble and the truth spreads like wildfire, they can't ignore it any longer. The walls they built to protect themselves from the truth are crumbling, and they are left standing in the wreckage with no one to blame but themselves. And the best part? You don't need to rub their noses in it. You don't need to argue, to demand an apology, or to prove anything to anyone. For the Lord is righteous. He loves righteous deeds. The upright shall behold his face. Psalm 11:7. Your victory is in the quiet assurance that the truth, your truth, will always rise to the surface, even if it takes time. Your silence, your strength, your resilience, these are the things that will be remembered. And as for them, they will have to live with the consequences of their own silence. They called you paranoid. They called you dramatic. They cast you out. But in the end, they weren't dealing with you. They were dealing with the truth, and the truth never loses. It always finds its way, and now they can't escape it. For everything that is hidden will eventually be brought into the open, and every secret will be brought to light. Luke 8:17. And the truth will set you free. Chosen one, stand firm. The victory is yours. Chosen one, the reality is this: nothing terrifies liars more than the one who dares to point at the cracks in their perfect wall. The truth you carried wasn't about destruction, it was about revelation. The community, that seemingly unified collective, wasn't as it appeared. It was fragile, artificial, and held together by silence, denial, and a mutual understanding that no one was to question the illusions they had built. They called it unity, but it was simply conformity. There was no space for questioning, for digging deeper, for challenging the status quo. Smiles were carefully placed at the right moments, and nods were exchanged to keep the peace. But none of it was real. Beneath the surface, there were cracks, lies, betrayals, and dysfunction, and the truth was hidden under the floorboards, swept away in the darkness. That's when you came in. You weren't a storm of destruction. You were a question they hadn't prepared for. You didn't follow the script. You didn't play your part in their charade. You stepped in and started asking the questions that no one dared ask. You saw the cracks where others saw perfection, and instead of turning away from the truth, you confronted it. The truth will set you free. John 8:32. Your clarity made their comfort feel cheap. Your honesty shattered the illusion that they were living under control, and that's why you became a threat. It wasn't because you were wrong, but because you held up a mirror they couldn't look away from. Ask yourself, How often have you noticed the truth when others preferred to stay blind to it? How many times have you felt like you were the only one seeing things for what they truly were? Imagine walking into a carnival funhouse where mirrors twist and distort reality. Everyone is laughing, enjoying the distorted reflections that make them feel safe, like their warped perceptions are the truth. And then you walk in, holding a simple, clear mirror. Suddenly, their laughter dies. The funhouse becomes silent, and they can no longer hide behind the false reflections. Their joy turns to frustration, to rage, because your clarity forces them to see the reality they've been avoiding. You didn't need to shout, you simply had to stand there with the truth. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. Ephesians 5:13. It wasn't your words they hated, it was the mirror you held up. You forced them to see what they had been hiding from. And here's the catch, it wasn't just you they feared, it was what you sparked in others. Truth, once spoken, spreads. Courage is contagious. You didn't just disrupt the illusion, you began to unravel it, piece by piece. And in doing so, you ignited something in others, the courage to ask questions, to face the uncomfortable truths, and to no longer accept the lies as their reality. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt your own courage rise up in defiance of the lies around you? How often have you chosen to speak the truth, even when it cost you? For God is not a God of disorder, but of peace. 1 Corinthians 14:33. That's why you were a threat to them. You didn't just challenge the comfort of the few, you threatened the delicate balance they had maintained for so long. And what's even more painful for them is that they couldn't stop it. The truth, like a seed planted in fertile soil, began to grow, and as it grew, the cracks in their carefully constructed world became wider, more visible. The illusions they had lived with for so long started to fall apart. The boat they begged you not to rock, it capsized. Here's where the irony becomes bitter. They blamed you for being divisive, for being disruptive. They said you were the one causing the destruction, the chaos. But look at what's happening now. Their world is crumbling around them, and it's not because of you. It's because they built their house on sand, and you were the one who had the courage to say it out loud. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Matthew 7:24. You didn't need to destroy their world. It was already crumbling, and you simply pointed out the truth that no one else wanted to face. Ask yourself, how often do you hold your ground, even when the world around you tells you to stay silent? How much strength does it take to speak the truth, knowing it will shake the very foundation of what others believe? The mask has slipped, and what was hidden in the shadows is now exposed. The lies, the betrayals, the secrets, they're all coming to light. And now, those who once mocked you for speaking out are standing in the wreckage of their own denial, and your voice is echoing in their minds, louder than it ever was before. They can't ignore it. They can't escape it. The truth you spoke has become undeniable. The reality they tried so hard to suppress is now coming back to haunt them, and the very things they tried to silence are the things they now can't avoid. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing is concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. Chosen one, they thought they could silence you. They thought that by pushing you away, they could continue living their lie. But the truth doesn't need to be shouted, it just needs to be revealed. And now, they are left in the ruins of their own denial, surrounded by the very truth they tried to bury. You weren't the problem. You were the solution they never wanted to hear. You were the warning they chose to ignore. And now, as everything they tried to protect collapses around them, they can no longer deny the one truth they tried so hard to avoid. You were right all along. Your victory isn't in their suffering. It's in knowing that truth, once spoken, always finds its way. People don't call you disrespectful when you bow. They call you disrespectful when you refuse to kneel to their lies. Chosen one, you know this truth intimately. They feared you not because you spoke disrespectfully, but because you saw things they weren't ready to face. The truth you carried was a mirror they didn't want to look into, and in order to protect their fragile world, they had to label you as the problem. For the word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, Hebrews 4:12. And your truth was just that sharp. It pierced through the lies, and they couldn't tolerate it. They branded you as dramatic, divisive, and rebellious, but none of these labels described you. They were just defenses against the reality you exposed. You weren't disrespectful for questioning behavior that was built on lies. You weren't out of line for standing up to manipulation or control. You were awake, and in your awakening, you became dangerous. Your clarity forced them to confront their complacency, and that was something they weren't prepared for. The truth will set you free. John 8:32. You were a disruptor, but not for the sake of chaos. You disrupted their comfort, their safety in ignorance, and that's why they resisted you. Ask yourself, why does it terrify people when you challenge their comfort? Why does your clarity spark such a defensive reaction? It's because the truth you carry doesn't need approval, it simply demands to be seen. When you walked into the room and pointed out the cracks in their perfectly crafted world, you weren't being disrespectful. You were showing them what they chose to ignore. You were the fire alarm, ringing loudly in a house full of complacency. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, nor is anything secret that will not come to light. Luke 8:17. Your presence was an invitation to wake up, but they preferred their comfortable delusion. Imagine this. You enter a room where everyone is applauding a crooked statue, believing it stands tall and proud. You, with a single glance, spot the lean and say, "Wait, that statue isn't straight." Instantly, the applause dies. Not because the statue is suddenly fixed, but because you exposed the lie. And that's why they fought you. They didn't hate you for being wrong, they hated you for being right. The truth you spoke made their comfort look cheap and shallow, and they couldn't bear that. Now, chosen one, think about this. How many times have you called out a lie only to be mocked, dismissed, or ridiculed for doing so? How many times have you been told to be quiet, to not rock the boat, to simply play along? It's because people, in their deep fear of facing uncomfortable truths, would rather label you as the problem than deal with the chaos the truth would bring. The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose, it will defend itself. The truth doesn't need your defense. It doesn't need your constant proving. It will always stand tall, whether you say a word or remain silent. The moment you stopped fighting, they began to see it, didn't they? They began to feel the weight of your silence, the power in your stillness. They couldn't escape it. So ask yourself, chosen one, how did you feel when you stopped defending your truth and yet it continued to echo in their minds? How does it feel to know that your clarity, your vision, has become undeniable even without you saying a word? Because that's where you stand now, in a place of quiet strength where your presence alone speaks louder than any argument. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Your silence was never a weakness, it was strength. Your refusal to engage in the drama, to play along with their lies, is what revealed the truth. And now, as the dust settles, they can no longer pretend that you were wrong. The lies they clung to have crumbled, and the truth you spoke is standing tall, undeniable. They thought they could shut you down by labeling you disrespectful, by dismissing you as dramatic. But in reality, you were the one who was always awake, always aware of the truth that others were too afraid to see. You didn't need to fight. You simply had to stand firm in the truth, and the world around you would bend to it. Now, as they struggle to come to terms with the wreckage, remember this: you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. Your freedom is in the truth you carry, and you were never wrong for speaking it. They may have called you disrespectful, but deep down, they know the real disrespect was in ignoring the truth you shared. Now they must face it, and in that, you find your victory not in their defeat, but in the clarity you always held. Your truth was never a weapon, it was a light. And in time, even those who fought it will have to acknowledge the brightness that comes from it. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. Proverbs 2-6. The wisdom you carry will always prevail, and those who mocked it are now left to wrestle with the very truth they chose to dismiss. Nothing exposes a person's soul faster than how they treat the one who suffers. Chosen one, your suffering wasn't random, and it certainly wasn't meaningless. It was a stage, a revealing moment, and the community's reactions to your pain became their true testimony. While you walked through betrayal, isolation, and unfairness, they revealed exactly who they were, not with grand speeches, but with the small choices they thought would go unnoticed. Their silence, their indifference, their whispers, those moments were not forgotten. They became receipts, a record of their actions etched in time, forever pointing back to their true character. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. They thought you were weak because you were hurting. They mistook your tears for fragility, your loneliness for failure, your silence for defeat. But here's the truth. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes. Romans 1:16. Your suffering wasn't proof of your weakness, it was proof of their cowardice. Because while you endured the fire, they stood around the flames, mocking, dismissing, or adding more wood to your misery. They didn't realize that their actions were being recorded, not in any book, but in the very essence of their treatment of you. Have you ever realized that the way people treat you in your lowest moments reveals their true nature? Imagine a litmus test dropped in water. It doesn't create the color, it simply reveals what was already there. That's exactly what your suffering did. It didn't create their cruelty, it exposed it. It didn't make them cold, it revealed the frost in their hearts that was already present. Every cold glance, every passive-aggressive jab, every time they chose comfort over standing with you, it was all written down, sealed in the universal law of cause and effect. The truth will set you free. John 8:32. They thought those little betrayals would vanish into the air, forgotten, but the universe keeps perfect records. And your pain, chosen one, wasn't in vain. It became a mirror for the world to see their actions, their indifference, their hidden cruelty. Have you ever wondered how much you've learned about yourself and others in the middle of your suffering? You were more than a witness to your own suffering. You became a living document of their hypocrisy. Your pain became the dividing line, the measuring stick for hearts. It revealed who had integrity and who was loyal only when loyalty cost them nothing. You became the embodiment of truth in a world that tried to hide behind illusions. And now, as the very storms you warned about begin to rage, they can't run from it anymore. The way they treated you plays back in their minds, louder than the chaos around them. For everything that is hidden is meant to be disclosed, and everything that is concealed is meant to be brought out into the open. Mark 4:22. They will try to excuse it. They will tell themselves, it wasn't that serious, it was just one time, it was just words. But the universe doesn't forget. The Lord will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. Ecclesiastes 12:14. The final witness against them isn't your voice, it's their own actions toward you. Their betrayal is the evidence that convicts them. And that is why, chosen one, your suffering wasn't wasted. It wasn't just survival, it was preparation, it was proof. You became the living testimony of their hypocrisy, a living reminder that truth, no matter how painful, always comes to light. Now, as everything begins to unravel, that truth will stand taller than every excuse they try to build. They will be left with nothing but their own guilt, their own actions, and the undeniable truth that you saw what they refused to see, and you endured what they couldn't handle. For God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. Hebrews 6:10, your suffering has already served its purpose in the divine plan. It was never for nothing. It was always part of the bigger picture, one that will unfold as a testament to the resilience, strength, and wisdom of the chosen one. Have you considered that your suffering might just be the key to unlocking the truth for others around you? In the end, you were the silent witness, the one who stood firm when everything around you crumbled. You were not broken. You were prepared for what comes next. And those who once doubted you will now see the power of your truth. The truth that they couldn't silence, and the strength they couldn't break. Your pain, chosen one, has turned into your victory. And with it, your message is clearer than ever. The truth they tried to bury will now rise above them. They were too afraid to acknowledge. Fools call it prophecy when the truth was written in their own patterns all along. Chosen one, this is what they'll never admit. You weren't tossing out guesses. You weren't chasing drama. You weren't predicting isolated events. You were exposing the engine behind the chaos. While they obsessed over surface-level problems, you were seeing the blueprint, the cycles, the repeated dysfunctions, the invisible currents that kept dragging them back into the same storms. For everything that is hidden will eventually be brought into the open, and every secret will be brought to light. Luke 8:17. They hated you for it, because you didn't just call out what would happen, you called out why it always happened. You showed them that betrayal wasn't random. It was born out of enabling the same toxic behaviors, the same destructive patterns, over and over. What is done in the dark will come to light. Luke 12:2. You revealed that financial collapse didn't come out of nowhere. It was seeded in reckless choices and hidden debts they refused to face. You pointed out that broken relationships weren't accidents. They were the result of unhealed wounds passed down, like heirlooms, from generation to generation. Imagine a gambler losing at the same table every night. They call it bad luck. You step in and say, no, it's the system, and it's rigged against you. That's what you did. You exposed the design. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Jeremiah 17:9. You didn't just say, here comes another crisis. You said, here comes another cycle. And that terrified them, because cycles mean accountability. Cycles mean this isn't random. It's chosen, repeated, perpetuated. Events make noise, but cycles write the script. That's what they never wanted to face. It was easier for them to chalk it all up to life's ups and downs, to shrug off betrayal as a one-time mistake, to call dysfunction normal. But you saw the reruns. You saw the same story being played with different actors, and you had the courage to speak it out loud. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. Now, as the fallout piles up, they're choking on déjà vu. Every mask slipping, every secret revealed, every relationship imploding. It's not just new drama. It's the same script, word for word, line for line, playing out again. The very things you warned them about are unfolding like a movie they swore they'd never watch again. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. Romans 6:23. And deep down, they know you were right. You didn't predict the future, you just read the script. They were too blind or too afraid to admit what was already written. And here's the cruel irony. They thought ignoring you would break the cycle. They thought silencing you would restore peace. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law. Galatians 4:4-5. But truth ignored doesn't erase the pattern, it feeds it. And now they're stuck in the sequel they never wanted, realizing too late that you weren't warning them of random chaos. You were exposing the design of their destruction. Every moment they avoided the truth is now crashing back, and the cycle they wished would end is only growing stronger. How much longer will they keep running from the pattern you showed them? How many more cycles will they allow to play out before they realize they have the power to break free? They thought they could silence you, and in doing so, silence the truth. But silence doesn't remove the design, It merely allows it to fester. You were never the cause of their chaos. You were the one who saw it before it consumed them. And now, the truth of what you said stands unshaken, unanswered, but undeniable. Those who can't control you will always call you arrogant, when really you were just unbought and unblinded. Chosen one, this is why you were never accepted socially. You weren't designed to be. You weren't placed in their circle to laugh at their jokes, to nod at their lies, or to blend into their script. You were assigned to observe, to disrupt illusions, to carry a level of clarity that made comfort impossible. That's why you stood out, and that's why they feared you. For the word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing to the division of soul and spirit, of joints and marrow, and discerning the thoughts and intentions of the heart. Hebrews 4:12. They mistook your detachment for arrogance. They whispered that you were too proud, too standoffish, too self-righteous. But let's be honest, it wasn't pride, it was perspective. You weren't emotionally entangled in their games, so you could see the moves they were too busy playing to notice. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? Jeremiah 17:9. You noticed the subtle betrayals hidden in fake smiles, the corruption lurking behind unity, the manipulation in their traditions. You weren't distant because you thought you were above them. You were distant because you weren't chained like them. Have you ever felt like you're just seeing the bigger picture when everyone else is stuck in the small details? Imagine a chessboard. Everyone else is caught up in the next move, obsessed with protecting pawns and pieces. You're standing above the board, seeing the whole strategy. To them, you look detached, uninterested. In reality, you're simply playing from a higher vantage point. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. James 3:17. That's what your presence was. Vision mistaken for arrogance. And here's the truth. They never admitted it. Your distance threatened them because your refusal to play their social games forced them to confront the emptiness of those games. Your clarity made their compromises look dirty. Your integrity made their silence look guilty. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. You were the mirror they didn't want to face. And instead of owning their reflection, they projected it onto you. Now, as the illusions collapse, they finally see what your distance meant. The very drama you refused to get tangled in has exploded. The cracks you pointed out have split the whole foundation. The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone, Psalm 118-22, and the person they once accused of being too proud to belong is standing steady, untouched by the fallout they're drowning in. Your detachment was never rejected. It was your assignment. You weren't put in their circle to be accepted. You were put there to bear witness, to shine light, to reveal cycles. And now the reason you never blended in is clear. You were never one of them. You were always the one above them, not socially accepted, but spiritually assigned to see what they refused to see, and proven right as their illusions burned to ash. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do the good things He planned for us long ago. Ephesians 2:10. How many times did you feel like an outsider when all along you were just the one who could see through the layers? As the world falls apart around them, you stand unshaken, the one who saw the cracks before they turned into craters. This is your victory. Not in their downfall, but in your clarity, your truth, and your unwavering purpose. You weren't a part of their false unity. You were the catalyst for the truth they could never embrace. And now, as the dust settles, you remain. Because when you were sent, you were always meant to shine. They called you the storm, but the real storm was their refusal to face the truth. Chosen one, this is where the irony cuts the deepest. They painted you as the disturbance, the one rocking the boat, the one threatening their fragile comfort. But you weren't the danger. You were the warning. You weren't chaos. You were clarity. Your presence wasn't meant to tear them apart. It was meant to prepare them for what was already coming. But the one who is noble plans noble things, and on noble things they stand. Isaiah 32:8. You were never there to harm them. You were there to shake them awake. You weren't the hurricane. They were already living in the eye of one. You were the lightning strike that revealed the landscape in the dark, showing where the real cracks were. But instead of preparing, instead of listening, they ran from you, thinking distance would save them. Imagine villagers mocking the storm siren because the skies are still clear. They cover their ears, they laugh at the sound, they dismiss the urgency. In that moment, their dismissiveness made them vulnerable to the very storm they couldn't see. Just like when we ignore the small cracks in our foundation, the house may seem fine for a while, but eventually it will crumble. They thought they had more time, but they didn't. And now, as everything they ignored comes rushing in, they'll see the warning they refused to heed. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Revelation 3:20. You were the voice at the door, the one knocking, but they chose to shut it instead. Have you ever felt like the one who could see the storm coming while everyone around you was pretending it wasn't there? But the clouds gather, the wind shifts, and when the downpour hits, it's too late. That's exactly what happened. They thought your presence was noise. They didn't realize it was the only protection they had. The truth will set you free. John 8:32. Truth never destroys. It reveals what was fragile all along. And that's why they resisted you, because your words made their comfort tremble. Your insight made their illusions bleed. Your questions cracked the false walls they leaned on for security. To them, that felt like a threat. But in reality, it was intervention. The truth you carried didn't need to scream to be heard. It just needed to be spoken. You weren't shaking things up for the sake of drama. You were awakening them to the reality that they were living in. The discomfort they felt was the breaking of their false security, and even though they rejected it, the truth never left. It lingered, haunting their subconscious and creating a sense of unease in places they once thought were safe. What if the very thing they feared the most, the truth, was the one thing that could have saved them? If they had leaned in, they could have braced themselves. If they had listened, they could have softened the blow, but instead, they exiled the very one who came to shield them. Now the storm has broken for real. The betrayals, the exposures, the chaos they swore would never touch them, and in the rubble, the realization dawns. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. You weren't their enemy. You were their lifeline. You weren't the storm. You were the umbrella they refused to hold. They rejected you because your truth didn't fit the narrative they wanted to believe. They wanted their comfort, their peace, and their illusions. But comfort that is built on lies is fragile, and the foundation of lies is always shaky. Your presence didn't just shake their comfort, it exposed it. You didn't give them what they wanted, you gave them what they needed, and that was too much for them to handle. But now, as the dust settles, they are left with the harsh reality that you were the very one who could have saved them from the wreckage. You weren't their danger, you were their chance at safety. And the cruel irony, the thing they ran from, was the very thing that could have saved them. The storm was never you, chosen one. The storm was their arrogance. The storm was their denial. You were never their destruction. You were their salvation in disguise. In the end, chosen one, your strength is not in avoiding the storm, but in standing through it, seeing it for what it truly is, and not letting it drown you. Sometimes, the hardest thing you can do is watch people make their own mistakes while knowing that you were there, holding the key to their salvation, and they rejected it. But even in that rejection, you find your own growth and resilience. The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118:22. Your truth, though rejected at first, will stand as the foundation for something far greater. As we bring this journey to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on the powerful truths shared today. You, chosen one, are not just a part of the community, but the very catalyst of transformation within it. Often misunderstood and even rejected, your strength lies not in fitting in, but in standing apart. You are the voice that challenges, the light that disrupts, and the presence that awakens. It's not about being right, it's about being authentic. In your solitude, you gained wisdom that others could not see. Your pain was not weakness, it was the evidence of your resilience, and it became the very thing that would ultimately set you apart. People may have labeled you as too much, too different, or too sharp for their comfort, but it was never about you. It was about their fear of the truth you carried. You didn't break their world, you revealed it, and in doing so, you showed them the cracks they'd long ignored. They feared your light, but your light was the very thing that could have saved them. It's not easy to be the one who sees the truth while others live in denial, but your courage, your unwavering belief in what you know, and your refusal to bow to the illusion is what will keep you on your divine path. Chosen one, the world needs you not just to survive, but to thrive. You are a beacon, a sign of what it means to walk with purpose and integrity, even when the world around you may not understand. Every step you take towards your truth is a step towards greatness, and as you continue to walk in that light, you will see the impact you've had on those around you. Your silence speaks volumes. Your clarity cuts through confusion. Your peace is the ultimate rebellion in a world full of chaos. As you move forward, continue to hold onto your purpose. Trust your discernment, trust the path you walk, and trust the truth you carry. You may not always be understood, but that's what makes you rare. You weren't meant to blend in. You were meant to stand out, to break the cycle, to shine light in places others are too afraid to look. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to engage with this community. Like, share, comment, and subscribe so we can continue walking this journey together. Your thoughts, your experiences, and your insights matter. Please share them with us below, and let's create a space where we can support each other. And if you feel compelled, don't forget the option to support the channel through Super Thanks. Even if you don't, your presence here is a gift. Lastly, I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to each of you. Whether you've been with us for a while or are just joining the community today, thank you for being part of this incredible journey. Your strength and your authenticity inspire me, and I pray that you continue to grow in your divine purpose. May you walk in peace, confidence, and truth. May the road ahead be illuminated by the light within you, and may you always remember that you are not alone. You are chosen, you are loved, and you are destined for greatness. Until next time, take care, stay grounded, and continue to walk in your truth.